I want to welcome you and tell you, first of all, my name is Pippin Parker. I'm the director of the New School for Drama. We are very honored to be invited to partner with the Screen Actors Guild Foundation. As Mr. Baldwin just told you, they're involved in really critical support for actors, both professionally and personally. I also want to welcome you to Tishman Auditorium in the historic New School building on West 12th Street. Since 1930, this building has provided a home for a very important conversation about the practice and the study and the convergences between the arts, liberal arts, social sciences, and now design and many other fields. We're very pleased to have you here. We hope to continue to see you here at our programming and in our new building, which will be opening next year across Fifth Avenue. And finally, I just want to say a couple personal words about Julianna Margulies, since she's not here yet. I first met Julianna in, I think, around 1990. She was in kindergarten. And I think she was just out of college, and we were doing a little play up here on 17th Street, and I think she was either a PA or an ASM, but I remember seeing her sort of across the theater, sweeping the stage, and she was just so dedicated and so committed to her craft of sweeping the stage. And the work lights were sort of shining down on her cascade of ropey black hair, and I remember at that moment turning to someone and saying, I have no idea who that young woman is, but mark my words, one day she is going to be a major, major stage manager. And I guess she went the other way, I don't know. We're very happy to have you here tonight. I also like to acknowledge some of the deans of the New School, Stephanie Browner, Michael Schober, Richard Kessler, who else is here, and the president of the New School, David Van Zandt, and his wife, Professor Lisa Hustis. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the show.
Thank you, Pippin.
And it's my pleasure to introduce the director of the New York programming for the Screen Actors Guild Foundation, Stacey Jackson.
Thank you, Pippin. Welcome. I'm so thrilled to welcome you guys here tonight for a Conversations sneak peek screening of the October 14th episode of The Good Wife, followed by a Q&A with Emmy, Golden Globe, and Screen Actors Guild Award winner, Julianna Margulies. Tonight's Q&A will be moderated by Jarrett Weisselman, editorial director for ET Online and TheInsider.com. The SAG Foundation would especially like to welcome New School students, faculty, staff, and alums, and extend a huge thank you to Pippin Parker, Linda Kleppinger, wherever you are, and everyone with the Tishman Auditorium for making tonight possible. We're really thrilled to begin this wonderful educational partnership with the New School tonight, and we look forward to many more exciting partnered events this year. Before we get started, I would just like to remind everyone to please turn off their cell phones and any other electronics. I'd also like to remind you that there is no photography and no audio or video recording allowed at SAG Foundation events, so if you could help us out with that, we would really appreciate it. The SAG Foundation is currently expanding programming in New York City. We are a national nonprofit organization separate from SAG-AFTRA, and we are funded entirely on grants and donations. All of our events are offered at no cost to union members, SAG-AFTRA, and Actors Equity at absolutely no cost. And you, those who know our programs, are our best ambassadors. So please tell your friends, tell them to get involved, spread the word. You can visit us at www.sagfoundation.org to learn more about upcoming events. And we'd love for you to engage with us online and through Facebook, and we're super cool. We're on Twitter. Finally, if you could all take a few moments at the end of the evening to fill out those evaluation forms, both new
Okay, I'm pinch hitting here, so just roll with me. Thanks, Julianna. It's so great to have you here on
Thank
stage
you for
here.
having me and for coming out. What a great group of people. Thank you.
They're highly attractive. I don't know if you can see that, but they're really. Let me. We are gonna have an opportunity to have some questions from the audience as well. But let me ask you some questions. You know, from the beginning on Good Wife, you seemed so comfortable in the role, and I just wondered what the process was of reading the script for the first time and what you felt about the character. Or are you just a really great actress?
No. It was the first character I'd read for a pilot that hit me as being something we hadn't seen yet on television. And I loved, the luxury of TV is that if it goes, because I know how hard it is to get a show on the air, you get this long journey. And I loved that she was starting at the beginning, because it meant I had such a long way to go with her, and it meant I could discover her as I went. And she was such a three-dimensional, flawed human being that I was interested in. So, and actually the exact opposite of me. I truly, nothing really about her hit me as, ooh, I know that feeling. So, so I thought that would be really challenging, because playing a character on a television series, on network television anyway, which is 22 episodes, our first 2 years was 23 episodes, is incredibly challenging to keep fresh and alive and to stay interested in. We're not machines, we're human beings, and I wanted to make sure I loved her enough that I would be excited to play her every week. And I am. I mean, we're in season 4, and I just read my next script that I start shooting this week, and every week I'm really excited to play her.
And I'd heard a rumor way back that you only want to do a show if it was going to shoot in New York. Is that true?
That is true, which was a very... Yeah, I mean, that's a tall order. And I kind of, now that I see how hard it is to get a show on the air, I can't believe I had the balls to say that, honestly, because now, and every actor and guest actor who comes on the show, they're like, good for you. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think I realized what I was saying, because I kept saying, oh, thank you so much, can't do it. You know, and then they're like, well, we'll shoot the pilot in Vancouver, and if the show gets picked up, we'll either shoot it in, would it be okay if we shoot it in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Connecticut if the tax incentives aren't in New York? And when you're a lead on a show, it's not about where's my life. Your life is the show. It's about where are my weekends and my home. Because it's a very rare occasion you get to go there. So when I go there, I wanted it to be my home.
Right, and you do live here now, and you have a family here. So
oh yeah,
rooted here. The other thing about it's interesting, because I think for me, one of the things that stands out about the shows that are cast out of New York and shot in New York are the sort of all the supporting actors, and like on this episode it was John Hickey and Dominic Chianese, and it's just such an amazing array. Was that another thing that attracted you to being in New York? Or?
Yeah, again, I don't think I realized how deep the pool was of talent. And by the way, shooting in New York, which it makes me so happy because my family's here and I want to raise my kid here, but Chicago's not happy. This is the second
time
television show I've done that's technically in Chicago, and I don't shoot there. But
they're shooting a lot of New York shows in Chicago now, I think. That's
they wish.
Yeah.
But we're lucky here because of Brooklyn and Queens. I mean, there's so many, and the meatpacking district. I mean, we shoot all over Manhattan and Queens and Brooklyn, and it looks like Chicago. So anyway, but yes, the pool of talent. I mean, last week I had a day. It's bizarre, my life, because I walked in, and in the morning I had court scenes with Brian Dennehy and Judd Hirsch. And then I went over to the other set where I had to do my apartment scene, my family life, with Stockard Channing, who was playing my mom. And it was a 16-hour day, and I came home, and I left the house at 6 a.m., I came home at 10 p.m., and I was on fire. I was so excited. And I know it sounds so crazy because, believe me, there's many times where I'm crying from exhaustion, but to work with actors of that caliber, you only learn from the best. And so I feel incredibly lucky that I got this gig, and that every week. I mean, Maura Tierney, I don't know if anyone saw this show last night. It was her introduction. But she comes from the same acting understanding that I do, which is like you show up and you're professional and you do your job and you pray to God you work with great people so you can get better. And her first day, I was almost in tears. It was so much fun. Because on ER, we missed each other. We were ships in the night.
Right.
And I didn't get to work with her. So it's been a real blessing.
And you're a producer on the show now as well. Are there other responsibilities that go along with that?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, they know I can only do so much because I'm always learning lines. But there is. I feel very responsible for how everyone is treated on the set. I feel very responsible for the scripts. There's things that I can't touch and things that I can help. I'm learning where to fight battles and where to let the people who really know what they're doing do them. But for them it's a benefit as well as for me, because I am coming from a place of being on the set every day with that crew. The executive producers, they come in and out all the time, and the writers are in LA. So I'm there. I'm at the heart of it, and I can see what's going on. And it's very helpful for them, too. I let them know as we're going. If they were a little nervous about one storyline or an actor they hired, I'm always emailing throughout the day. Nothing to worry about. Everything's working out well. I give them a little peace of mind as well, I think.
Right, got it. I told a little story about meeting you for the first time when you were very young. And you were, I don't know if you had actually really started acting yet, because you were like an ASM or a PA on a show that we were doing.
Oh, I hadn't made money from it yet. I mean, I hadn't done anything professionally, but I had just graduated from college.
Right.
And I was doing this soundboard at a Naked Angels play, which I don't know how I needed an internship or something. I forget what it was. I know nothing about a soundboard. And at one point, I remember it was like that movie Airplane, where he pulls out the plug. He's like, just kidding. And he put it back in. And that's what happened. The whole thing went black for a minute. I don't know, but
It's shocking that you ever worked again.
It is shocking, especially with that group.
It's a testament.
But I was such a fan of Naked Angels, and I loved, it was all new playwrights at the time, and I just graduated college. So I wanted to sort of be in, you would do anything just to be in the environment. That's the great thing about being an actor learning in New York, is that you have everything at your fingertips to learn from the best.
And did you have a sort of trajectory in your head of what kind of acting you wanted to do, or what parts you want to have, or what media you really wanted to work in more?
That's a really good question, Pippin. I think for me, I just wanted to work. I didn't have sort of this grand illusion of what I was supposed to become as an actor. I just loved the craft of it so much, and I loved the people involved. And it felt like a great way to navigate my life. I always felt better when I was in a play. I went to college not quite knowing what my major would be, and I got cast in this David Rabe play called In the Boom Boom Room my freshman year. And I just remember this moment. I was a go-go dancer. I wasn't, it was a senior play, and they needed someone, in a cage. But I'll do it. But I remember the first moment on stage, and I just felt at home. I was like, this is it. I'm home. It was such a beautiful experience. And so for me, I just wanted to act. And I remember that moment of being like, first I just want to stop waitressing and be able to pay my rent through a professional gig. And then I just want to make enough money that I can get my insurance. And then, you know, it was sort of a step at a time. I never sort of, I think if I looked at the whole picture, I would have never shown up. But it was like knitting, you know, one stitch at a time, you make it.
And you have a son who's 4.5. What if, I'm just curious, if he showed an inclination to go into acting?
What if he does? Or
does.
what if...
what would your response be?
My response would be, you can do anything you want once you're 18. I want him to have a childhood, and I know there are kids who, your sister was doing it at 10, right? I mean, and I know that sometimes that's great, but I feel like I want to give him an opportunity not to have a life of rejection.
But you've turned the rejection around, if I can dip into this, when you stopped on ER and you came back to New York, and was that a moment of empowerment? Did you need to sort of recoup, and what was that sort of like for you?
You know, it's such a funny story, that story, because it's been spun so many ways, but no one actually ever asked me my opinion at the time.
I'm asking you now.
I left ER because 6 years was up, and really my character, I always felt like George Clooney and my character, we were meant to be together, and once he was off the show, it felt like I was sort of drifting in and out of any good-looking guy who came into the ER. You know, Hathaway's gonna sleep with him, and I just respected the character so much, and I loved them as a couple so much, and we all sat down and really thought it out, the best way for the fans to say goodbye to these two popular characters. And it was LA, and I was homesick, I'll be honest. I need a season. I just need to feel like I'm moving forward. And I'm saying this, I mean, I felt very stuck out there. I didn't, there were roses all the time, and I'm from the East Coast and grew up a lot in England, where you like freeze your ass off, and then you're so excited about spring, and then, oh my God, summer, and look at fall. Like there's this sort of natural progression in life that I need to feel like I'm moving forward. And out there, I felt like I got stuck in a car going to a studio, and it was always the same weather outside. And I really had a weird reaction for me. And after 6 years, I felt like I'd done my contract and I was done. That being said, I'm also not stupid. I mean, I had a year's worth of work lined up. I was set to do a John Robin Bates play at Lincoln Center. I was leaving first to go and do a mini-series in Prague with Angelica Houston and Joan Allen. I mean, I had a year's worth of work set up, and I got to move home. And sort of from that, after that year, I thought life will just show me where to go. But I definitely, you know, had a little foundation that I knew I wasn't just getting thrown out of the bath and you know.
And into New York.
Into New York. No, and my apartment was still here. I mean, it was actually a much easier transition from ER back to New York than from New York to ER.
Right. And what's the, like, what, in terms of The Good Wife, you're 4 seasons in now, so is that a longer kind of arc, do you think?
It's such a different experience. First of all, I'm so much wiser now. I mean, I do love, I really, I know a lot of people hate aging, but I love what it also can do for you. I know there's a lot of negative things, especially in this business, but for me personally, I feel like I blossomed much more in my late 30s to 40s than I did in my 20s. In my 20s, you know, you're thrown into it and it's a whirlwind, and then you get a little a ground, and your feet sort of, you go, oh, I know this ground, I can walk this ground. And so this time in is very different. First of all, I'm home. I feel comfortable. So I feel like I can take bigger risks at work. I'm settled, I'm married, I have a kid, I have a very gentle life. I have the excuse constantly of not having to go out. I'm too tired and I have a kid. I'll just stay in. Which is, it's not that I don't love the New York life, and I would go out all the time, but with my schedule it's impossible. But there's a different appreciation I have for it now. And I love the work even more because I know how fleeting it is and how fortunate I am. So it's a very, it's an even bigger experience this time around.
Let's say I think we can do questions from the audience, but I don't know if someone got some microphones. Oh yes, there are some microphones. And so does someone have a question? Okay. I say okay because the microphone got passed.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Yuri. You're an amazing actress, and I just want to ask you actually, when any of us starts a new project, like you're terrified to take on the character because you don't know the character, and especially a character like this, a woman who's so strong and has such depth in history. How did you feel tackling her, and how do you feel now that you've had 4 seasons to live with her?
That's a great question. I was very nervous about it because at the time, it was right when Elliot Spitzer and Silda Spitzer had their big blow up in the press, and the Clintons weren't far away from that either, and then there was so much stuff going on politically with these women in front of our faces at the time, and I didn't want to belittle any of them. And so I was nervous about it because I wanted to maintain their character in a truthful light and not make them look like wallflowers. And at the same time, I wanted to stay true to this story. So it is nerve-wracking, but I love creating new characters. I mean, and if you ever get a chance to do a new play, it's even worse than I think a TV series. I've done it a couple of times, and you just think, oh my God, then someone's going to open it up and say, originally created by Julianna Margulies, and you think that to me that's more of a burden in a play than it is on a television show, because you get the 4 years or maybe 5 or 6 to make it into a fully realized character. What I love about this character and the show that I'm so fortunate because Robert and Michelle King, who are our executive producers and writers, at the end of every season, and this never happens on any show that I know of, they bring each and every one of us into a room and discuss what we'd like to see within our characters. And the first season I said, I have to meet her mother. I have to understand why this woman left, and she was number 1 in her school at Georgetown Law. This is a smart girl who gave it all up for this man, and I need to know who does that and why. And year 4, I meet my mother, but year 2, they brought in my brother to sort of circumnavigate around to the mother. There's going to be a lot of drinking, by the way. There's definitely a lot of drinking. But so it's really exciting for me because I feel like I'm part of the process. And I think when you create a new character, also they'll tell you, in the beginning they said that my looks, the way I would have Alicia look and stand and hold herself, they stopped writing lines because the look said more than the words. So they also get to create a character with you. And that's really thrilling.
Great. What's next? I don't know if you can see. Who's got the microphone?
There's people down here.
Okay.
Oh,
Hello.
there you go.
Okay.
Hi. You mentioned ER a couple times, and my family and I, we used to love watching this show. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to come back to that show at the very end? That was great closure for fans of the show, I think.
Which is exactly why we did it. Both George and I, when we were asked, I called him and I said, if you do it, I'll do it. And we both decided that the fans were the reason we did it. We were both very cognizant of the fact that we have these careers because of that show. And we also loved the characters together. So it was 2 days in LA, and I had just had my baby, and I remember walking onto the Warner Brother lot. It was so strange because for 6 years I just used to drive on, and now they're asking for my ID. I was like, really? My picture used to be right there. But it was great. It was a lovely way to come full circle. A little surreal, but it was lovely. And George and I have remained friends, so I think if I hadn't have seen him, might have been weird, but because we know each other so well, it was actually really fun.
Thanks. Oh, yes. Whoever has the microphone.
Got it, if there's only one. Okay, hi. I was just wondering, being 22, did you make any key discoveries really early in your career that you would hope that everybody makes either at some point or early on, you know, as opposed to asking, you know, what's your advice? But did you actually, you know, encounter any of those moments? And if so, what were they?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're lucky enough to study your craft, I remember leaving school and getting out there into the auditioning world and realizing that I had tools because I studied with great teachers. And I kept studying even after I graduated. I went and did classes at Playwrights Horizons and Bill Esper. And anywhere I could get my hands on a class, I went, because I think you never stop learning your craft. And I truly do believe that that's the key to success within yourself as an actor anyway. But I also felt like and I had this little plan, which was if by the time I'm 25 and I'm not making my rent and able to have my insurance, health insurance, I thought then maybe someone's telling me something and I should look at a different profession. So I sort of had a backup plan, which was I was going to go back to school and get, do something or other. But I really felt like I could only take a certain amount of rejection, mostly because it's so damaging. I mean, it just hurts your soul so much, and you take it so personally. And then I got lucky, and I started working pretty soon, just doing regional theater, and then a commercial now and then. And every time I thought I'd have to go back to bartending, I'd get a residual check from a Ethan Allen commercial or something. And I kept thinking, well, the universe is sort of saying, keep going, because I'm managing to pay my rent. And I said, if I could pay my rent, okay, next step, now can I actually afford a car? And each step along the way sort of kept opening the road. But I did feel like if someone hadn't responded, I don't know how long I would have done it. And I think it's something to really look at. I think it's too hard. And listen, my godfather, who is 77, was his dream was to be an actor, and then his father died right when he was on his way to Hollywood, and he had to take over his father's hardware business in Rochester, and it was a horrible experience for him, and he did it for his wife and kids and family, and at the age of 60, went into acting, and he's great, and he works, and so I'm not saying that it's something that it's a young man's game, because you never know, but I do think that you have to see if people are really responding to what you have to offer.
Hi, my name is Steven Vega, and I want to say I really enjoyed you on ER, but I love you on The Good Wife.
Oh, thank you.
I actually have two questions. One is there something that you make sure you do every day that you find has brought you success?
Wow, that's a deep question. Every day would be an exaggeration, I think, because, my day starts so early. But I'll tell you, that's a great question. I mean, one of the things I always set out to do, especially if I'm working, if it's a day where I'm just working, is to try and do everything truthfully. And that can be anything. It can be saying to your makeup artist, I'm so sorry, but I hate the way you did my eyes. Or, looking at your partner that you were thinking when you were studying the scene last night, how it was going to go, and seeing how they're reacting. Acting's reacting, so I have to act truthfully to the situation. Would I act that way? I'm not sure, but this is what you're giving me, so maybe if I go that way. I always try to go with the flow on a set and see where it goes before I resist it. And that, I think, it leads to a really lovely work environment for everyone. I think when directors are hit with, no, my character wouldn't do that, you're immediately putting up a boundary of, I do this and you do that and leave me alone. I love collaborating. I think that's a successful environment to be in, and it'll make everyone around you feel better about themselves, and they'll all be better actors for it. If you feel safe, I never understand actors who don't take in a crew. That's where you're safest, is with these people. Millions of people watch me every week. I don't know those people. I'm hoping I'm giving them something, but the people that I want to impress is my grip, my dolly grip, and my cameraman and my boom guy. Those are the people that I have to feel safe around. So I'm always very curious when I see an actor sort of dismiss the DP. You're like, dude. So I think staying truthful and trying to be as open as you can, because you never know. Maybe I won't agree with something, but it doesn't mean I can't try it. And 9 times out of 10 when I try it, I discover something new.
Thank you. My other thing was CBS. Your show I am so dedicated to that I don't know if there's any way you can get on them to stay true to their programming, because sometimes it doesn't start on time and sometimes it starts at 9:30. And my
father
would start in the DVR, even though I set the DVR to start when the show starts.
I know, it's horrible.
It is.
It's horrible. My father literally called me and he goes, who changed your show to Sunday nights? And I was like, I think the head of CBS. And he goes, he should be fired. It's football, and it's a drag, and God bless our fans, because our ratings actually did not go down because of that time. And now this year, I think they're doing something, right? They're doing something that's going to tell you that when the actual show is on, so you know when to set your DVR for, because a lot of people had this problem last year, and you can't believe, I used to get hit with on the street, like, I love your show, and then last year it was like, I can never find your show. So they're working on it. The tragedy is that the show still did well, and the tragedy is that people are angry, and I don't blame you. There was a whole New York Times front page article about it. Sorry.
Down there.
Oh, I'm back here. Hello. I
Oh,
got the
sorry.
mic.
Yes, I'm
All
sorry.
the way back here. First of all, set your DVR for this show after The Good Wife. That kind of solves the problem a little bit, which is what I do. Or you
hear
can
that?
also catch it on video on demand if you have a DVR.
Just always do, just to be safe.
Right. Just record CBS all day, every day.
Julianna, on behalf of those aforementioned millions of people, you do bring us something every week, and thank you very much for it.
Oh, thank you.
And on that note, my question is, when you watch TV, or when you get time, when you have watched TV, what shows have brought pleasure to you?
That's a good question. Okay, I'll tell you. I always come a little late to the game on everything, because if you put me in front of a TV while I'm doing the show, I just fall asleep, because I'll actually be sitting still for a minute. But this past year, and I'm mortified to say that I'm so behind, but I'm almost finished with season 2. Breaking Bad blew my mind. I've always been a Mad Men fan. I came to Rome 3 seasons after it was over and watched every single episode. I had the whole DVD collection, so I love that. Sopranos, of course, was always one of my favorites. But current would be Mad Men, Breaking Bad, and Downton Abbey. All the ones that win Best Show.
Do we have one more down here? I don't know who has the microphone.
I have the microphone.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Justine, and thank you for being here. And I have to say, The Sopranos was wonderful when you were on it. You were great. And I don't know why you were the first one to just mention that just now. But I'm wondering, because now a lot with the internet, there's a lot of us here producing our own work and collaborating with each other, even if it's not at the highest level or most expensive level. And I'm wondering if you produced your own work before you became more successful, and if so, what was that like for you? I know you're a producer on the show now, but now that you're a little bit, you have more experience. Like when you were younger, did you produce your own work, and what was?
Oh yeah, no, I never. I hate to age myself, but when I was hitting the streets and pounding the pavement, the internet. It just wasn't even a thought. If anything,
You had one of those huge cell phones, didn't you?
I just walked down the street with a boombox. No. but back in the day, it was all about independent movies. You would find friends who were making, in film school, independent movies that were shorts that would end up trying to get money to, make it into a feature, and you'd pray that you could last the day in the basement that they had that smelled like cat piss and call yourself a working actor. That was how we did it. But I never really produced anything until this show.
Well, it's a really different environment now. I mean, that was very unusual then, and I think the pathways, I think SAG Foundation has been dealing with this, the climate for actors, writers, and directors has really changed. So I think the idea of self-producing and the sort of entrepreneurial spirit is very new. Certainly, we didn't have to do it.
Right.
Unless we wanted to. We didn't have to. Right. No, I can't see.
Okay.
Oh.
I want to say thank you for the show, and from a person who's actually been on the set of The Good Wife, it's been an interesting experience. I actually got into the union because of The Good Wife, so I want to thank you for that. And so
I love stories like that.
And my question is that since from season 1 to now, being that Alicia and all the other characters have gone through their struggles and changes, do you feel that the characters are still evolving in their own way? Do you feel that there's a lot that we should expect more out, or is it one of those things where, especially Alicia, she's going to go through her more family drama that's going to be on the show?
Yeah, I do. I feel like, it's going to be so juicy, and I can't tell you yet. I mean, even the cast doesn't know what's going to happen at the end of this season, and I've been sworn to secrecy, but it's genius, and it's just another testament to Robert and Michelle of how they figure things out. The biggest challenge for them has been how to maintain this title, The Good Wife. And it's been an interesting journey for them, and for me to sort of say, well, she is this good girl, but she's finding her independence, and she's finding her sexuality, and she's waking up, and yet she's really still quite in love with the idea of the husband and 2 children and the home. And so how do we maintain that without being disrespectful to the fact that she went through a horrific experience with a philandering pig? I mean. So it's been a real journey for them, and they've come up with a brilliant solution, which if you stay tuned and DVR 3 shows, like basically from 8 to 11, you'll find out. But it is a journey. I love also because she's not just on her own journey as, becoming this lawyer and being good at her job, but she's dealing with teenagers now, and that's a journey in and of itself. And these kids, it's not easy to parent teenagers. I mean, my pediatrician always laughs at me because I have this little kid, who does everything I tell him and wears clothes I put on him, and she just laughs. She's like, "Oh my God, you with the teenagers last week. That was funny." You wait. But it is, so it's her journey with that, and then her journey with finding her own true love, which she hasn't found yet, and maybe it still is with Peter Florrick, or maybe, I don't know, but I feel like we have to find out where she comes from before we figure out how she can have a good relationship. And so I think it's ever evolving, and I love that about it. For the rest of the characters, who cares? No, I'm kidding. No, but I find them all thrilling. But they are. It's really interesting to see them every week, to see what Eli's going through, and Will Gardner. And listen, Christine Baranski got a love story that's going to still be going on. First woman in her 60s to get that kind of a story on network television. It's just never been done. So.
I think we have time for one more question. What?
Yep.
Oh, okay. One more question.
Siri is talking on his phone.
It's such a basic question. I'm sorry. It's like an acting question. Given that you don't have much time with the script, and I imagine there's no rehearsal, and it's an 18-hour day, how how to go about like learning the lines and preparing to be professional on the set?
That's a great question, and I feel like at this point I could lead a seminar in how to do that, because it's taken me a little while to not do it, but to embrace it. I've always, here's the thing. You don't have time. And that's why I always say to actors, learn your craft. Because I know no matter what, I'm gonna have my tools to fall back on. So if they're gonna throw something at me, listen, some actors can't do television. It's not every actor's medium, to be honest. I got the most amazing training ground with ER. You have to be quick on your feet and embrace the fact that you're not gonna get rehearsal. At the same time, know your lines inside out so that you don't have to worry about not knowing your lines, especially in a law show, which is so complicated. I mean, sometimes I don't know what I'm saying. And if you don't know what you're saying, it's very hard to memorize it. So you have to then, like, learn what you're saying, you know? So on top of just learning lines, you're learning law. And you have to be cordial and lovely to everybody all the time. And then, you know, they're at you with the hair and the makeup and the clothes, and it's a long day. But at the end of the day, if you actually embrace it and realize that everyone's in the same boat at that moment, then, and it's fleeting. I mean, even though an 18-hour day can feel like forever, I also know that there'll be tomorrow morning. I will wake up at some point and not be in those clothes. And there will be a moment where I can get rid of the lines. The hard part for me is the lines, because if, like, tomorrow I have 5 scenes in court in a very tricky case, because it's military dialogue, it's a military lawsuit. So you have to learn military on top of law. And it's 5 scenes, and we block shoot, which means that because if we turn everything around with every scene, it's gonna take half an hour for lighting each time. So you do everything this way. So at 6 a.m. I'm gonna be arguing in front of the judge, and the camera's gonna be on me, and then I'm gonna do 5 scenes that way. And then at 8 o'clock at night, they're gonna turn the room around, and I have to go back to what I did at 6 a.m. But those lines are gone already. And in order for me to learn the lines for tomorrow, at lunch, I've been trying to learn the lines for tomorrow. So you start to kind of go crazy a little bit. But I think what you have to honestly do is just keep breathing and know that it'll get done, and look at it, and I know this sounds really silly. I look at it like I'm an Olympian. What would an Olympian athlete do right now? And that's how I look at it. I really do. I always think, you can do it. And then I start getting jazzed about it. I'm like, what? I can do this? and that's how you have to embrace it. Otherwise, you'll sink, you know? And my favorite moment in the mornings, because I'm there every day, 5 days a week, you know, and someone will say, but you weren't in that scene last night on the show. And I was like, I was on B Unit. You know, if you don't see me in one scene in one of the episodes, it's because I was on another unit shooting a different part. But the thing that always kills me is when someone, a supporting actor or a guest star, comes in and they're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And they don't have kids, and they don't, you know, and they haven't been up all night with a kid vomiting, and they, you know, and they have one scene to do. And I always go, I know. Because I always think, like, until you're in those shoes, of course you're tired. I get it. I was that person who said, wait, on Saturday morning after an 18-hour day, you get up with your kid. I said that to Laura Innes on ER. I was like, oh, I sleep all day, you know. I don't, and that's my life, and that's okay, and, you know, I'll sleep when I'm old. But you have to look at it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julianna. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.